Coming up here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you why Mark Davis fired Josh McDaniels and made Antonio Pierce the interim Raiders head coach. If you haven't heard this story yet, this is going to absolutely positively blow your mind. And if you're a conspiracy theorist out there, this is definitely going to be right up your alley. If you're looking for the latest Raiders news and rumors, this is your one-stop shop. When Josh McDaniels got fired, we went live for 26 straight hours. When the Raiders play on game day, there's no better place to be for an Oakland tailgate. And then when stories like this break, I got to give my opinion on it because you don't get stories like this very often. So to make sure that you don't miss stuff like this going forward, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. That way you don't miss a thing. So according to Jay Glazer of Fox Sports, Antonio Pierce said this during the Raiders meeting last week. If you remember, the Raiders had a team meeting where everybody could say whatever they wanted, and it was not supposed to hurt anybody's feelings. So Antonio Pierce said this: look, guys, we have to have our own culture. It's got to be about our culture here. He brought up the old Giants team that beat the Patriots, Josh McDaniels' team in the Super Bowl in 2007 season. So if you remember, the Giants beat the New England Patriots, and that was kind of what Antonio Pierce was doing here, trying to hype up the Raiders. No matter who we played, we thought we could beat them. We had a game plan that we could beat them. We had to believe that, and that's not here. We have to believe it here at the Raiders. We can beat anybody. So Antonio Pierce's message to all the Raiders players out there was, hey, listen, I don't care if we lose 9 out of 10 times. We can beat any team. And you got to be able to mentally prepare yourself to go out there and beat any team that you play. Because at the end of the day, everybody's got to go out there and you got to play the game. The problem was Josh McDaniels did not like the fact that Antonio Pierce was talking about the New England Patriots. So everybody in the Raiders locker room, according to Jay Glazer, was saying that, shit, man, they were hyped up hearing the Antonio Pierce speech. And after listening to Pierce speak for the last, I don't even know, week at this point, if you're not willing to run through a brick wall for Antonio Pierce, check your pulse. So imagine Pierce gives you that pump-up speech. You're all there in the locker room. You guys are like, hell yeah, let's freaking go. And then Josh McDaniels gets upset at Antonio Pierce and, quote, says, don't ever talk about the Patriots like that. This is a story that I thought was fake. I'm not kidding you. When I got word of this story, I thought it was fake because of how fake it sounds. The most sad part is it's 100% true. Like, the fact that he got upset that Antonio Pierce tried to hype up this current Raiders team, talking bad about a Patriots team, which, let's face it, at that time, that's probably the greatest regular season team of all time, and they were saying, I mean, we weren't better than the Patriots team, but we believed that we could beat them for one game, and we beat them in the Super Bowl. That pissed off Josh McDaniels, and you know what? That didn't sit well with a lot of Raiders players in that locker room. So, what did I do? I wanted to be able to confirm this story, so I reached out to a few Raiders players, and one anonymous Raiders player told me when Josh McDaniels was fired, we celebrated. Because there were some players, and again, I had a report that came out a few days before Josh McDaniels ended up getting fired, telling everybody that, hey, there are players in that locker room that do not like what is going on right now there, and they're not afraid to voice their opinion. So then, once I heard this story, I had to reach out to some of my guys, and they said, yeah, man, we celebrated. Imagine being in a locker room, as fired up as you are, and the guy running the ship looks at the dude who just gave that hype speech and said, don't talk bad about the Patriots. It's a wild thing. So I saw this, and instantly I thought this question here. And you know what? It's going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So let me know what you have to say about this one. You're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. So I want you to scroll on down, let the ad play. Believe it or not, helps me out. Let the ad play, go on down, and answer this. Do you think that Josh McDaniels was a Patriots spy when he was the Las Vegas Raiders head coach? Type S for yes, Mitch, he was a spy, or just type B for not a spy, he was just really that freaking bad. I like to believe that nobody was a spy. Just in today's day and age, it's kind of wild. And maybe Jeremy, being the Astros fan that he is, thinks, you know what, maybe Josh McDaniels could be a spy. I get it, he's been caught cheating. To me personally, though, I just think he was that bad of a head coach, that bad of a leader of men, that too much of a, I used to always say, God complex, where you can't look in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe I'm part of the problem too. Because also, according to anonymous Raiders players, and also according to reports out there, McDaniels left that meeting with his tail between his legs. He was extremely upset that players came and they came to yell at him. Also, a Raiders player told me this is probably a few weeks ago at this point, that the reason why some guys stay on the roster and that some guys are McDaniels guys is because he's too insecure to be able to run a locker room, and he needs the players to be able to have his back. With Antonio Pierce, Davante Adams, Max Crosby, they all said it. He's been in our shoes. He's a player, and people are willing to rally around Antonio Pierce because he is a leader of men. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, why Antonio Pierce is the interim head coach. And when I found out the reason here and what Mark Davis said, it put a smile on my face, because when you see a show like this and you hear, McDaniel saying shit like that and why Pierce got promoted to be the interim, it really gives me that good feeling. It puts a smile on my face that maybe finally, the Raiders are going to be moving in the right direction. Also, huge shout out to today's sponsor, PrizePicks. And if you haven't gotten started yet with PrizePicks, what are you waiting for? It is daily fantasy sports made easy. And even though I struggled last week with my picks, I'm feeling pretty confident about them this week. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I'll be honest, right now the picks for the Raiders game, there are no Jets players featured yet, and that's where I'm going to be putting my money, because I do anticipate a lower scoring game. No matter what it is for Zach Wilson, I'm taking the less. No matter what it is for that Jets offense, I'm going to go less. In terms of the Raiders offense, I am going to go less on Aiden. I'm going to go less on Davante Adams, because they have DJ Reed, they have Sauce Gardner, two very, very good corners, and to me the matchups are a little bit better when you target the tight ends, when you get the running backs going, especially in the screen game, get the receivers going in the screen game, take a little bit of pressure off Aiden. But give me the more on Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to be featured heavily again in this football game. You can say what you want about the Jets offense. It's terrible. It's one of the worst in the league. The Jets defense, though, is legit. It's one of the best in the National Football League. So if you're like, all right, Mitch, I love these picks, go put your money where your mouth is, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Or if you're like, Mitch, these picks stink, guess what? Fade me. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. If you're like, you know what, man, I didn't hear anything you just said. Luckily for you, that link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. All right, y'all, so coming up here is going to be why Antonio Pierce was named the interim head coach by the Las Vegas Raiders, because once the Raiders moved on from Josh McDaniels, there was a decision that had to be made. Who's going to be the next person that steps up? So according to Jay Glazer of Fox Sports, he said that Mark Davis, and this is a quote, according to Jay, that Mark Davis said, "I'm going to choose the guy who believes we can win every single game." So remember, Antonio Pierce gave that speech that apparently really, really resonated well with a lot of players in that locker room, and Antonio Pierce's message was simple. We can beat anybody. If you believe in yourself, if we believe in each other, and we have a common goal, we can take down anybody. That's the Raider way. Mark Davis loved it. Big-time Raiders leaders went up to Mark Davis and kind of really hyped up Antonio Pierce here. But the fact that McDaniels was more worried about the Patriots and essentially McDaniels was not trying to hype up his own team. Mark Davis took that personal and said, all right, here's a check for $85 million. See you later, Dave Ziegler. See you later, Josh McDaniels. See you later, Mick Lombardi. I'm going to go out and get a guy that can rally a group of men and that wants to win every game and that believes in the Raider way and believes in just win, baby. So this is also one thing that I was told, that Antonio Pierce has a legit shot at being the Raiders' next head coach, which, unfortunately, Bisaccia never had. The players, they love Bisaccia. Bisaccia was a great dude. Anytime you can find an interim head coach, a grown man at this point, whoever, that can sit down and write handwritten messages to a bunch of players, that's a really, really special thing. But if you don't think that Pierce has a legit shot at being the next Raiders head coach, you got to wake up here a little bit, because if you haven't been able to tell, Davis is he's out for blood, and he's out for blood in a good way. He's saying, I don't care what it's going to take. I got to get it done. So Mark Davis, from what I understand, is leaning towards hiring a player coach in 2024. The Raiders have had 12 head coaches, including interim coaches, in the last 20 years. So if you're Davis, you got to be like, well, it is more than any other team. You're like, well, what I've done hasn't really worked. And sometimes you got to learn from history. And I think that we can all agree the better hiring would have been going with somebody like Rich Bisaccia over Josh McDaniels on top of the player coach. And this is just the honesty part. When you hear player coach, I think cheaper. And when you consider the fact of how much money John Gruden paid John Gruden, or when you think of how much money Mark Davis paid John Gruden, 10 years, $100 million, too much money. Josh McDaniels, too much money. If you go player coach, maybe somebody like an Antonio Pierce, it's not going to break the bank as much on Mark Davis, which, if you watched our live show yesterday, according to Petey, is poor. So do you want Antonio Pierce to be the Raiders head coach in 2024? Give me a yes, or I want you to type your N for no. And if you're going to say no, it's all good. My only favor, I guess, that I'm going to say here is this. Tell me who you want. If you're going to say no, I don't want Antonio Pierce to be the Raiders head coach in 2024, I want you to say, no, I want this person. No, I want this person. Actually, you know what, Mitch? I'd rather have that person. It's okay. There's no right or wrong answer right now. Only time is going to tell whether or not Pierce should be the next head coach. To me, though, if the Raiders show significant improvement, I'm talking on offense, defense, special teams, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, their ability to prep. Also, do other players want to come play here for the Las Vegas Raiders? If the leaders want Pierce back, then to me, Mark Davis should end up keeping Antonio Pierce. So as it stands right now, somebody asked me this earlier today. I was like, Mitch, what are the percentage chance that Pierce is back as the head coach? I said 20%. I'd give it one just win, baby, right now. It's not impossible. It's not a great chance. They've played one game, and if they lose, that percentage is going to drop drastically. If they keep winning, it's going to go up, but this number will never go above 50% until the season is over. And even 50% is a very, very high number. So coming up here on the show now, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I want Antonio Pierce to be the Raiders head coach. And I can say that I want him to be the head coach right now because he's 1-0. The Raiders have already shown so much better strides at getting better. And if he is the next Raiders head coach, that means that this season was one hell of a season. And at the end of the day, man, I don't care who the head coach is. I just want to win football games. I want the Raiders to win football games. I'm a lot happier person. I sleep better at night. I save my voice a lot more when the Raiders win football games. And as it stands right now, I do. I want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach. Obviously, that can change. And if they go, you know what, that's not the route that we're going to go. And for those of you that haven't seen this video out there yet, I put out a Josh McDaniels replacement vid in terms of who could be the next head coach. You will not see Antonio Pierce's name on here because it's literally just names from outside the organization. I got 6 offensive-minded, 5 defensive-minded coaches. If you want to go check it out, please, it's down in the comments. It's also on the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. Before we get into the top 3 reasons why I want Pierce here, for those that do not know, I want to be able to hang out with all of y'all this Saturday, November 11th in Las Vegas. I'm going to be at Red Tail, which is inside of Resorts World, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And to the first 10 people that show up and show me that you are subscribed, first round's on me. If you're like, Mitch, I don't drink, well then, hey, let's get a picture. I still want to be able to talk a little bit of Raiders. You're going to be able to get to meet my dad. You're going to be able to get some apps maybe. Yeah, F it, let's do it. Bottom line is this, man. We hang out all the time on here, and I really want to be able to shake some hands. I really want to see the people that ride with me because you guys are a big reason why I do this. So if you could, share the word, spread the word. I want to show Red Tail how Raider Nation gets down because then, if we do a good enough job, Chugs and I might be able to go out to Las Vegas every single Raiders home game this season and next. All right, here we go. Why I want Antonio Pierce to be the Raiders head coach. Dude's a leader. For the amount of times that I shouted on this show, Josh McDaniels will never be a good head coach because he's not a leader of men. I said it before the Raiders hired him, said it last year, I've said it probably as much as I've said where there's smoke, there's fire. So to me, the next head coach that I want the Raiders to bring in, got to be a leader. Got to be a leader. And that's exactly what Pierce is. This is what Pierce had to say at his introductory press conference. It starts when we walk in this building. Enjoying and loving the fact that you're a Raider. Embracing the fact that you're a Raider. Loving the fact that you're next to your brother. The power of your coaches and the players in the building to have a dialogue and the trust and accountability for one another where we can start to make change, that's first and foremost. And I agree with him. To me, I don't care how smart you are. If what you're selling is not there, if you can't lead a group of people like McDaniels, it's not going to happen. Antonio Pierce might not know X's and O's. I'm not saying that. But to me, listen to that guy talk. Think about how many Raider fans right now, if you're a Raiders fan right now and you're like, I would run through a wall for that guy. It's been 1 week. That's the type of guy that you need. And if you would run through a wall for Antonio Pierce, I want you to spam wall down below. Let's go to the next one here. I want the Raider mentality back. I'm so sick and tired of hearing Las Vegas West or the Las Vegas Patriots or the Patriot way. I'm done with that. And I'm so happy that that's in the past. I want that Raider mentality back. I want that mentality that I don't care who's against me. I'm going after you with everything that I got. Nothing is given in life. And you got to fight for everything that you got. If you think that you're going to be able to just sit back, put your feet up, it's going to be a tough road for you. Life's not easy. And the way that people have success is when you deal with a challenge, and then you go from there. Good teams have players, coaches, people in that front office that embody the idea of sometimes shit is going to get tough. But if we rally together, we can accomplish anything. That's the type of Raider mentality that we need back on this team, back in this locker room. And this is what Antonio Pierce had to say on Monday. Like, I freaking love the way that this guy talks. Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, every team is pretty much a reflection of its head coach. So, if you're not mentally tough, that's what I pride myself on. Was my way as a player to have that kind of mindset, not to blink, not to worry about anything. And his resume proves that. When you go from being an undrafted free agent, a UDFA in 2001, then he was one of the leaders, the tackle leader, 138 tackles on the New York Giants Super Bowl team in 2006. That was the team that ended up beating the unbelievable Patriots team. They were able to win that game with a leader like Antonio Pierce. Then he started his coaching career as a high school football coach in 2014. Less than 10 years later, he is now the interim head coach of the Raiders. This is somebody who has dealt with adversity, I think that's the right word, as a player and doing it as a head coach. That's the Raider way, and that's what this Raiders team needs. The final one is this, and it's as simple as it gets, man. Antonio Pierce is a Raider. Think about how many times in free agency, trades, we talk about different dudes, and I want somebody that's proud to wear that shield. I want somebody that's proud to wear the silver and black. I want somebody that's proud to be a Raider. And that's exactly what Antonio Pierce is. The short story, the matter of fact is, I grew up in Compton, California. I was born a Raider. I was born with the Raiders rolling in the Coliseum in L.A. I was rolling with the NWA, talking straight out of Compton, rocking Raiders hats. So when the opportunity came to work with Josh McDaniels, Pat Graham, and Dave Ziegler, I jumped on it. Bottom line is this, y'all. I'm rooting for Antonio Pierce. And I really, really hope that the Raiders give him a chance. And I hope that one day, Antonio, anytime, bro, you want to jump on this show, you want to chop it up, you want to talk with the Raiders, the entire nation, I got you. And I want that opportunity to be here because I'm telling you right now, I was super against Josh McDaniels, but I am all in on Antonio Pierce. So before we end today's show, y'all, again, I want to show people how the nation rallies. I want to show Antonio Pierce. I hope that one Raiders fan puts this video in front of Antonio Pierce and he's like, this is my type of crew. These are the people that I want to roll with. So all I'm going to do right now is ask every single person that watches this video, every person that's watching this live right now, nation, can Antonio Pierce, our coach, can I get a very loud Raider?